And on the topic of Trump's family, this week a bipartisan group of ethics advocates again urged President-elect Donald Trump to do more to separate himself from his family business. In a letter signed by conservatives, including allies of Trump's senior counselor Steve Bannon, the group asked Trump to divest business enterprises into a true blind trust managed by an independent trustee having no family relationship with you or the equivalent, in accordance with the guidelines of the Ethics in Government Act. It's been more than 5 months since Trump has held a formal news conference, but on Tuesday he tweeted that his next one will happen next week on January 11th. He's calling it a general news conference. But many are hoping he'll address what exactly will happen to the Trump Organization after he takes office. If the 45th president does relieve himself from his longtime business duties, who takes over? William Cohan is a contributing editor for Vanity Fair. In his most recent piece, he asked, can Donald Jr. and Eric Trump really run the family business? He joins me now to try and answer that. But first, here's what the president-elect told Leslie Stahl about his business on 60 Minutes shortly after he won the 2016 election.
What are you going to do about your business? Are your kids going to run it? Are you going to divest yourself? What?
I built a great company. I have some of the great assets in the world, real estate assets. I don't care about it anymore. This is so important what I'm doing. And you know, the people believe this. This is so important what I'm doing. I don't care about I own a building in Manhattan and I have nice tenants. My kids will run it. They'll run it well. It runs
and never
easy.
Talk to you about it?
They won't talk to me. Now, the laws are very soft on this whole matter. I don't have to do anything. You know, I don't know if you know this, I don't have to do anything.
All right. So, Bill, let me start off with this. We know that Donald Jr., Ivanka, and Eric Trump are all supposed to run the Trump family business. People have heard a lot about Ivanka, the eldest, but we haven't necessarily heard a lot about Donald Jr. Nor Eric. And before we start talking about the business side of things, I wonder what stood out to you over the course of your reporting on this article, which was really interesting to hear all the details of their background. Anything on the business front or the personal front that stood out to you?
First of all, while it's not easy to be their children, his children, I think that basically the consensus seems to be that they turned out pretty well. And I would say I tend to agree with that pretty well. I think what I've discovered is that two boys anyway have a lot of characteristics of Donald. And what I mean by that is they are tough-nosed negotiators. They don't seem to really care so much how they come off in public, or if they're being abrasive, or if they're being obnoxious, or if they're, for instance, hunting wild game in Africa that's, you know, very offensive to a lot of people. They don't seem to care about any of that. And I think those are traits and characteristics they got from their father. Now, that served, apparently, the father very well. It got him elected President of the United States when nobody else thought that could happen. But whether or not that would serve the two sons well in running his empire remains to be seen.
Let's talk about their roles right now in the organization. What exactly do they do, Donald Jr. and Eric?
Well, all three of the children are executive vice presidents of the Trump Organization, whatever that means. Of course, we know what that really means, which is that Donald Trump runs that business and they do the tasks that he assigns them and probably don't do anything without his approval. Now, we may see how that changes or not in the next week or in the next coming weeks. That's, of course, what ethics officials are concerned about and good government officials are concerned about, and that is a valid concern because the potential conflicts are huge. But Donald Jr. has basically had the responsibility for leasing up the vacant office spaces in some of the buildings that Donald Trump owns outright, and others where he is a partner in the ownership. For instance, at 40 Wall Street, which Donald Trump owns, apparently, I'm told Donald Jr. did a very good job of leasing what was essentially an 80% vacant building and leasing it up to 100%. When Calvin Klein vacated the space at Trump Tower on Fifth Avenue, Donald Trump Jr. did a very good job working with people who are much more experienced, by the way. It wasn't just him alone, but working with more experienced people, more experienced brokers that Donald Trump has used in the past to lease up this office space. And I think by all reports, he's done a nice job at that. So I give him credit for that. Eric Trump has basically been responsible for the golf business, the golf courses, the golf clubs, building the golf course under the Whitestone Bridge here in the Bronx, managing the golf course down in Jupiter, Florida. I mean, they have about 13 or 15 golf courses at this point. Eric Trump also basically took control of the winery that's in Virginia, and he's made a pretty good go of it. That seems to be his pet project.
And now clearly all three have a close relationship, both personally and professionally. We've seen them on the campaign trail. But let me ask you, based on your reporting and the folks that you interviewed and the work history that you explored here, how prepared do you think the Trump children are to run the Trump organization?
Well, again, what does it actually mean to run the Trump organization? One long-time Wall Street executive told me that Donald Trump is going to continue to run the Trump organization. There aren't going to be any emails to that effect. There aren't going to be any telephone calls. But basically, as we've seen, and we've seen this now for the last few weeks, they're still taking steps to run that business. He's still trying to do deals. He's meeting with foreign executives to make that happen. He said he wasn't going to do any new deals, and yet we've seen some new deals come. So I suspect Donald Trump, which is probably well within the law, as we're all discovering, will continue to have a big hand in the Trump organization.
A lot of open questions yet. William Cohan, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.